public school, I ended up getting in trouble quite a bit. I just didn't fit with the system. I couldn't stop talking in class. I had a few physical altercations, and those issues pretty much went away when I started going here. Not to say that I didn't get written up. I did get written up quite a bit, but it was mostly for leaving out messes and such. The entire system of the student body holding itself accountable is fascinating. The Judicial Committee is made up of a representative from each of the age groups of the student body, including one staff. So there would be 4 voting members on a Judicial Committee and 1 chair to run the meeting. And that was the position that I typically held within the school for many years. I think probably the most common thing that people get written up for is the rule about leaving messes out, just because we have to keep the campus looking clean and pretty, and we don't want our stuff to get in the way of other people. The thing was, in public school, a violation of a rule or getting written up for anything is always met with a punishment. And sentences sometimes could feel like punishments, but the vast majority of the time, they weren't really punishments so much as they were like corrective actions. And very rarely did I ever feel that a sentence was inappropriate. A sentence that the JC hands down, I mean, they have to decide on it as a group, they have to vote on it. There's typically some sort of discourse on what sort of sentencing should actually go down. And yeah, it just always felt super appropriate. It never really felt like the man was coming down on me with a hammer. Obviously, a big bulk of my time was just playing games and hanging out. And I think that was very valuable because the social interaction, working out differences and compromises to make a game work. You know, sometimes we play a board game, sometimes we play a game that everybody knows, but a lot of the games we played here were completely internal to AVS with their own set of AVS rules. And that sparked constant debate and conflict and compromise, and these situations had to be worked out because you didn't want the game to stop. Everybody wanted to play the game. I spent another good chunk of my time on various projects. There were a lot of solo projects I worked on. I was really into cartography. I still am really into cartography, and so I was always making a lot of maps and doing a lot of image editing, just, you know, purely for artistic reasons and just because it was a lot of fun. The most memorable projects were the group projects. I remember at one point, me and another group of students had the idea to build a full-scale trebuchet, just out of wood and random materials that we could find. And we didn't really know how to. We didn't really understand how it worked. We just kind of threw something together and hoped it worked. And it didn't work very well. It, you know, just kind of took a tennis ball and slammed it right down onto the ground right in front of it. But it was still incredibly fun and one of the most valuable AVS experiences I can remember. There were several other group projects. Me and another group of students did produce a couple of video games. I was specifically working in the graphics department of our little game studio, and we had another student that was doing all the code in Python, and we had other students that were taking reference imagery. We made a video game where all of the player models were the faces of people here at school. So we actually bought a green screen and set it up in the theater and took a bunch of reference photos of people's faces in front of the green screen so that way we could use it in the video game. And I revisit old projects all the time. I mean, most of the maps that I worked on, I still have, I still look at, I can view my progress as I went on. And I think that was one of the best things about going to the school for me was that all of the time in my disposal was my own, and I could do whatever I wanted with it. So if a student is really passionate about honing in a certain skill, they can put as many hours as they want into that here. We have several students now that are incredibly artistic and have put countless hours into their work. And I'm not sure that they would have really had the opportunity to do that had they not been going to a place that allowed them to be in full possession of their time. So what I'm doing now is I am going to school to pursue a GIS certificate. I'm going to Front Range Community College. And the big thing about that for me was that school and just the concept of sitting in a classroom had become incredibly intimidating. I don't think anybody who goes to AVS has very fond memories of being in the public education system. And being in a classroom environment can bring back a lot of bad memories, and it can remind you of everything that you tried to get away from. But slowly but surely, I have been figuring it out, and it's actually been going great. The nice thing about going to a smaller institution like a community college is that the amount of classes, the variety of classes that are at your disposal are so numerous that you're functionally guaranteed to be able to find something that you are interested in. For me, GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems, is the technical aspect of map making. It is where most aspiring cartographers find work in the modern day. So that's currently what I'm pursuing. I'm pursuing a certificate program. I should be done in about 2 years. And I have to say that since starting, a lot of fears about going to school pretty much have mostly gone away. I feel pretty confident at this point that I can stick with it and I can do what needs to happen to make it all the way through school. And I think a lot of that confidence came from going to AVS in the first place, considering that AVS is very open and accepting of whatever you're interested in. And I didn't ever receive anything short of encouragement and support from the entire community. I think the best thing to say is that institutional public school is very much designed to fit every person like their pegs into these perfectly square holes. And I think what most parents would recognize in their own children is that very few children fit that square peg perfectly. Everybody's a completely different shape. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. Everybody has different passions. And I think if you can start to recognize that public education isn't really working out for your student, pursuing alternatives like AVS can be really, really valuable for not only them, but for the entire family. And I've seen it countless times. Students start here only being used to public school for their entire lives. And they get here and the freedom and the liberty, they just don't know what to do with it. It can almost be overwhelming. But the vast majority of the time, I just see kids find their place, find their passion, find what matters to them. And once they figure that out, I see children thrive. And I see them thrive up into the point that they can make it into adulthood with confidence in themselves and confidence in what they're passionate about. I think the biggest thing would be for parents. I think a lot of parents, especially the newer families to the community, will still continue to have reservations about sending their students here just because the lack of a structure seems weird and foreign and alien. And the best thing I can say is, pay attention to your children. Pay attention to how that type of schooling affects them, and pay attention to how this type of schooling affects them. And I think you will see a remarkable difference in their mood, in their mentality, in their opinions, and in their outlook that you can't really achieve any other way than just giving children the liberty and the freedom that they deserve.